I'm the host with the most, baby. Podcasting for the masses, and I'm coming correct.
All right, I'm bringing in my man Nate Washington out of Tiffin University, Tiffin's finest, recently inducted into their Hall of Fame, I think a couple years ago. Very well deserved. Undrafted Pittsburgh Steelers. I got to play with Nate 1 year, and what I didn't know about you, bro, is you won 2 Super Bowls in your first 4 years being in the NFL. And then you came to us, the Titans. We went 13-3 the year before. We had a tough squad, but then we was ass to start the year out. We was 0-6. What was that like for you, bro, coming to the Titans from the Steelers, after winning the Super Bowl and then having to be in that situation?
Oh, man, it was kind of crazy, to be honest with you, Bull, man, because like you said, I was coming in from winning 2 Super Bowls. So hitting free agency for me, especially coming out of Tiffin University, was kind of unknown. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what to expect, bro. I didn't even know how to be treated like the man in a way. You know what I'm saying? In free agency, when I was coming out, I was the second receiver in the free agency pool ranking. So it was kind of different for me. I ain't expect none of it. So when I got to Tennessee, Jeff and the GM had showed me so much love at the time, and they were ecstatic about not letting me leave. So I ended up signing. At the time, I signed a nice, significant deal with them and signed with the guys. But stepping in the locker room, it was kind of hard for me, bro, to be honest, because one thing about the league is playing Division I ball, no matter if you were the only one from Syracuse, you probably played against a ton of other guys in Division I. So you got so many camaraderie stories, so many things to discuss about your colleges and those things. So I'm getting there, and I don't really know none of y'all like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't played against none of y'all in college. I didn't really have a huge personality or rapport in Pittsburgh. I was good, but I didn't have a huge personality to stick out like that, So I didn't know many guys outside of the Steelers. So when I got there, man, it was kind of shaky ground for me. I didn't know how it was going to work out, man. But lo and behold, you knowing the other personalities of the guys, VY, CJ, Tony Brown, C. Hope was there, so many guys that I ended up becoming really, really close with. It was a great decision for me. No, it didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. I thought I hit a lick, you know what I'm saying, with y'all being 13-3. I thought I was about to step right into another little success, man. But, we hit our rocky points. But I think, overall, I think I've garnished some of the best friends that I can possibly have and for the rest of my life being with that team at the time.
Yeah, we took you in with open arms, threw you a party. It was your birthday.
Sure did.
Camp, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I say, it was only 1 year for me with you, but what I appreciated about you when the season started, like it did start rocky for you. You weren't playing your best ball, but you stuck with it. And then we started to turn it around that year. You was always a fighter. You was a dog. And I know that comes from obviously being an undrafted free agent, but what about the fellas that, pretty much raised you in the NFL? Because you played with some Hall of Famers, some guys that, I would even say I looked up to as football players. Hines Ward was out there not breaking cats' jaws, you feel me? So anytime we played Pittsburgh, I'm like finding Hines right away. Don't be out here with that bullshit, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, every time, bro. Growing up in Pittsburgh, man, it was an adjustment for me. Like, as I stated, I won't take it lightly, bro. Being at Tiffin University and then coming into the league, it was definitely a huge adjustment for me. A lot of people talk to me about, finding out about my stats from college and stuff. And with all due respect to my college and much I love, I really don't even like discussing it because I understand the difference of levels, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
levels to the shit for real.
Yeah, you feel what I'm saying? Like it's a totally different monster playing in that league, and it was a huge adjustment for me. So getting there, every single guy from Jerome to Casey Hampton to all of those guys, it didn't matter what position it was, all of those guys connected with me and made me understand that I had some type of talent to bring to this league. And it was just about learning the game, learning the speed, and feeling comfortable, feeling confident, building those things, right? And that was one of the main things I took from Pittsburgh. But in all honesty, kind of had to take a step back and do it all over again when I got to Tennessee, because it was a totally different role for me. I hadn't been a starter. I hadn't been, the reliable guy on the first, second downs like I was now requested to be. I wasn't making as much money as I was, which also requires you to be better. And, a lot of the things that I was able to do in Pittsburgh in the background, I was no longer able to do. So I had to, adjust again. I had to get comfortable with being not only a starter and reliable in that manner, but being a leader and understanding that I was getting older and having to groom younger guys to become professionals in this league. That was a responsibility of mine. So just learning all those things and having you guys around, making those things easier on me, allowing me to be myself, you know what I'm saying? It was adjustment, but it all worked out for me in the end.
I think that's one thing that goes overlooked, right? When all those things that you just mentioned, you become a free agent, then you go to another team in your fourth, fifth year, you're expected to be a leader. You got to get your game on point. You're making different money in a different tax bracket now. Like you just said, there's levels to this shit, and it really steps up another level, and some people don't and can't accept that challenge and step up to that. And like I said, I only played with you for 1 year, but I always watched the Titans and watched you from afar, and you became that leader. Talk about the responsibility part, when things aren't going well, because the Titans right now are going through that. And, some people are stepping up, and I feel like some people that were paid to come here to make some plays and be those leaders are not playing those roles.
Well, for me, man, personally, as you did in a lot of ways, it didn't matter what was going on around me to a large regard. Like, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be a part of that. You know what I mean? And to a large
1,000%.
respect, when you perform in that manner, a lot of guys pick up on that and they understand that sense of urgency, So, for me in our darkest times, I did everything I could to ignore what was around me while still understanding it was still a responsibility of mine. And that's just a duty that you kind of go in with personally, because at the very moment you get to griping and complaining about what your teammates are doing, and then you get your opportunity to go out there and have an impactful play or make a routine play with, your assigned technique or whatever it is at time, but you have a bust, then you're becoming a problem. You're a part of the problem. So, I just did my best to just make sure I took every play at one point in time, at one play at a time, but still requiring those guys and me to do the same. You know what I'm saying? I think it was all type of things that you went on from my period of time of teammates and our lack of success, whether it was the lack of talent, the lack of connection with the coaching staff, whatever was going on behind the scenes, as you know, whatever was hindering guys from not going out and performing to their top peak on every play and being consistent, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to lock in and do that. And that was a responsibility for me as I took on personally as a leader. Other than that, it's hard. You get in these situations where your team's not being successful, and a lot of these guys look at it as every man being for themselves. But at the end of the day, when you're the leader, even to this day, when people talk about that 59-0 game, you know what I'm saying? Regular shit, I'll take that to the chin. You know what I'm saying? I was on that team, and man, I hate hearing it, but that's a responsibility that you take when you get your ass beat, man.
Yeah, nah, for sure, bro. I was out there with you. That's not good. We do a lot of banter on Twitter, me and you. We back and forth. We co-sign each other's tweets. And last week, you tweeted that one of your coaches said y'all didn't deserve to go in the sauna. And then I hit you back with, well, I remember we was 1-5, and I broke the Nintendo and all that stuff because they left the game paused. When you guys weren't allowed to go in the sauna, what was the culture of that team that made that coach be like, nah, y'all don't deserve to go in the sauna?
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was completely horrible behind scenes, bro. In all honesty, it was a secret buddy staff, and every staff member wasn't buddy. Let's just say that, So a lot of things was getting back to me behind closed doors that a lot of guys didn't even know had going on. There was one point at a time of that same season, to be quite honest with you, me and that same head coach had it out because it was like his third or fourth time calling me in his office and during that year. And, you know I had my issues with certain guys, but I think majority of the guys, staff included, knew what I stood for. You know, I recall the time getting into a Mike Mularkey, one play on the sideline, going back out on the field, coming back to the sideline after the series to a apologetic Mike Mularkey, understanding that we both had cross wires at the time, and that's not who we were, and we wanted to move on. And we both agreed and apologized to each other at that time. So I wasn't, that tough guy like that. So to get into it with this head coach at the time was completely baffling to me, especially we had a relationship over a couple of years, so it was just complete dismay. I think it was a situation where he thought he was, disciplining children. I'm all for taking away games and foosball, whatever else you got to take away, but you're taking away guys' maintenance. And in that situation, you obviously let me know that you don't understand how effective this is for our body. Mind you, we had just got a sauna.
Right.
I don't think we had the sauna when you was there. Like, we ain't had no sauna. So, what I'm saying? We just getting the sauna, and guys, finally, we got able to take our body, blah, blah, blah. Man, they took away that sauna. Man, them boys got to ripping that tape down like, man, I wasn't it anyway, because you punishing us and you hurting us, So the team at that time, it wasn't good. Behind closed doors, the camaraderie, the respect for the coaches, the respect for the players, if I'm honest. A lot of the coaches didn't like a lot of the players, if I'm honest, So it was just a disastrous environment, bro, that I look back on and realize I understand why we weren't winning games.
Yeah, I understand. My situation with the Nintendo, it was always during break, man. You had these young guys, first rookies, second year guys in their locker playing video games. And, it's break before practice. All right, cool, whatever. But they loud, giddy, and we losing. You know what I'm saying? So then go out to practice, and I came into practice before everybody else. And the game was paused, bro. The game was paused. They didn't want to lose their spot. And for me, it's bro, we are 0 in whatever, 1 in whatever, and these young cats is worried about this video game. So it was no exaggeration. I snatched it out of the locker, and then I slammed it. So, breaking it to pieces, however that works out, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, I wasn't with that because you're not focused on the task at hand. This is telling me the whole time we're out there at practice trying to get better, trying to get ready for Peyton Manning or whoever we're playing, and y'all thinking about some goddamn Mario Kart, bro. I'm not going, you know what I'm saying? So
the shit that matters, you ain't making the main
exactly,
point.
You know what I'm saying? So it's tough being a leader, and especially when things aren't going right and you're not getting the support from the coaching staff and the people that you're looking to as leaders. So I feel you on that one.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly, man. I think a lot of people don't understand neither. When you dealing with guys like us, we professional football players, but we men at the end of the day.
At the end
and
of the
day.
Men
that we are the men that we gonna be when we step on that field. And if you are no nonsense, you're not about to have me looking foolish type of person. That, hey, man, you better get your shit together, because at the end of the day, we all in this shit together.
Exactly. And then the guys that are leading us, the coaches got to be believable. So like you say, we're men. And if you're a bullshit man, bullshit person, we're going to see that from jump. I don't care if I'm a football player or a man in the street. We're going to call bullshit. And it unfortunately, it happens in the NFL. Speaking of which, man, change gears a little bit. Proud of you, dog. You came out with a book, man. Football was my father. So a lot of these things that we're talking about, being men, standing on business, all that thing, football helped us, become these men that we are. But you actually put it into hardback and paperback form. So congratulations on that.
Man, I appreciate that, bro. I really appreciate that. Like you said, football really shaped a lot of who I am today as a man, bro. A lot of the things that I've been through personally, privately, behind closed doors, the perseverance and being able to make it through those situations and understanding and coming out on the other side with healing and not hatred, understanding that those things were detrimental to my involvement of being a better father, being a better husband, eventually, and those things are really what I wanted. In my opinion, as a man, those things is what your legacy is, how you were to your family, how you were to your children, and how you led your community the best way you could. And, like I said, a lot of the tough lessons that I've learned personally of going through outside of football, football was the reason why I was able to stay on the good side of things and not fall too far. As they say, you might want to fall back, but you never want to fall off, and that's exactly kind of what has happened to me in life, but it's actually allowed me to recalibrate my thinking for the positive, man. Everything now today is where it is for me today because of, the perseverance and the understanding of what I've learned from football, of not only just being a tough-minded person, but being detailed and being accountable, that you can't be successful if you're not doing your part, and that's in life too. I've learned to stop pointing the finger at everybody and learn how to point the thumb, and finding out those reasons of, what I had, and including these things to happen, and also what I had in them being repaired and being rebuilt. So it's been a good journey for me, bro. This book has meant everything to me because, as much as my father try, he just wasn't the best, and unfortunately a lot of us have that story. I'm not just talking about young black kids.
I don't even know mine.
Yeah, and I think that's a story that's synonymous with, us that grew up in the game, without our fathers, that this game was every bit of it was the man that we needed it to be. Every coach, every drill, every time we doubted ourselves, but found ourselves successful after our doubt. It was everything we needed from a man to build us to be the person that we are today in our father's absence. And hopefully, this story kind of relays that for the other young men that's growing up in the game, and some of the old dogs like us that's done and can relate to it.
Nah, man, because I look forward to reading it, hearing everybody's story. Like we've been rocking with each other for over a decade, but to really get insight and show your vulnerability, that's not something that we grow up doing, especially as athletes, especially as men, football players, however you want to look at it. So, it's always going to be a reflection. We both have daughters. I got 3, you got 2. They can always go back and see where daddy was coming from, all right, and when they get older and get some understanding. So I've actually myself went through the beginning process of writing a book. What was your process like, man? Did you sit down with someone and kind of just tell them your thoughts and they kind of put it together, or you went pen to pad in old school, Edgar Allan Poe?
Well, to be honest with you, Bull, this process had started for me unknowingly, bro. My ex-wife had gifted me a journal back in 2010, bro, and I just started writing in my journal. And around 2015, I had a conversation with Bishop James Walker there in Nashville. And he was kind of telling me, he was like, you do a great job of going back and watching film and understanding how you made your mistakes and what to do next week to move forward. But I would caution you to just kind of do a better job of scouting your opponent and understanding how you're being attacked and how you're being vulnerable. And I was like, you know what? Man, that sounds like a book idea, because that's exactly what I have been going through in life. Like, something happened to me, then I can reflect on it, I can take accountability, and I can be like, never again. But I never was really truly acknowledging who I was and how I was, and allowing these things to even occur in a lot of situations to due to my either naiveness or my negligence. And, through that process, I sat on it for 10 years, Bull, not even really, pursuing it and putting it off, and get with this beautiful woman that I'm with today. And she, just running some ideas by her. She was like, no, it's time. And she introduced me to a publisher, one that I would be greatly happy to introduce you to, or set you along the lines of choosing one. And after that, you sit down with someone, and as my story was already really written in my mind, they kind of helped me structure it, format it, put it on paper, So those were kind of the next process of understanding it. After I had been writing my ideas unknowingly for so long and curating my story upon how I wanted it told, then I was able to talk to somebody and them helping me format it and make sure that it was correct in a storytelling way. So it was all a process that I kind of went through unknowingly, So if this is something that you're doing intentionally, kudos to you, bro, because for me, it was something that I didn't know that I wanted that kind of fell in my lap. So the intention behind it, you're already on the right path.
Yeah, nah, it's kind of like you said, like I started my journals back in 2017. So, it's still on the shelf right now. So, yeah, maybe I'll get jump started. But right now, I'm on this pod. You feel me?
Yeah, I love it too, bro. We have been talking about this for so long, and now you here, G.
Yeah, for sure. So, Nate, last week, at the end of the week, it was all over about the gambling. You got all the NBA players' faces all over the news, but you don't see anybody else that's involved. What do you think about, one, the state of gambling in sports? Two, what is your thoughts on, this current NBA situation? And three, as an athlete, have you ever been involved in sports betting or throwing games?
Well, let me answer this one first. I have never personally betted on a game that I played in or nothing like that. Like, that's wild to me, right?
It's crazy.
But I will say that I've experienced plenty of gambling to some sort in professional sports, whether it's card games, whether it's dominoes, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Prevalent. If we're talking about that, it's prevalent.
Right.
You grow up doing
it. Guys gamble all the time. Good friend of mine, to be honest with you, like he gambled so much. Every Monday we would go to Atlantic City and go to the Borgata, and I'm talking about, man, he would sit at that crap table all night. You know what I'm saying? So I don't watch guys gamble all the time. I think when it comes to this specific situation with this NBA, the NBA players and mixed up in this situation, I think it's unfortunate because obviously, they are the poster child for this situation. 30 people picked up, and we only really know of 3 or 4 guys out of that 30 that, are even involved in the situation in itself. They've mentioned the crime families, but at the same time, it's been a generalized name. Giovanni's, it's never no one specific, So when you look at this situation, in all honesty, it feels like an obvious ploy from the government. It just seems like a distraction, even if it's for the current issue that they're dealing with gambling. You throw these guys out there, and out of 30, we only know of 3 or 4 guys being those guys, and probably these 3 or 4 guys had the lowest role in the operation out of the whole situation. So it's very concerning, being an ex-athlete, being in this situation that I've been around those type of games and knowing guys that gamble and may have just been a part of the game, to be exposed as the
leader.
The creator and the operator of such. It's unfortunate, but in the same sense, if you're not in that situation, you're not in that situation. If you don't put yourself in that situation, you're not there. But it's unfortunate to see what those guys are doing.
Well, I would say with the whole poker thing is crazy to me, because you're talking about X-ray tables, X-ray glasses, all things, marked cards. Look, Chauncey Billups, for everything I know, is an upstanding person, man. And he's a coach. I don't know that my man got time to be doing all that. So to be, what I'm saying, the ringleader. Now, on the other hand, throwing the game, when they show them clips of Rozier, hey, man, that looked bad, bro. He threw the game, bro.
I see him throw the ball over the rim from like 4 feet away.
He threw the game, bro.
What you doing?
That's crazy. But I can't imagine, and I guess it happens because I've actually heard one of the Mafia guys talk about it, like how they would press a quarterback to drop a ball or to throw it to a defender. And no said quarterback, he's just telling his stories, however it goes. But I couldn't, the integrity for me, man, it's the integrity of the game, man. To what everybody keeps hollering, like you're already making hella bread. Like, so what's another 100,000 or something like that on some bets? And I'm not going out there to look bad. I'm not gonna make myself miss a tackle or, do some bullshit like that. So there's no place in that for the game.
No question. That's where it is with me. Like, it's complete integrity. Like,
yeah.
I get it. For me, walking out in public, I've been in grocery stores before and people, come up to you like, hey, man, I wish you would have caught that pass last week. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm trying to get some macaroni and cheese. Like, so I couldn't imagine just for like 100 bands constantly having that happen everywhere you go. You take
crazy.
Your daughters to eat. They coming up to you at the table talking about their fantasy team. I ain't trying to go through that. Like, it ain't worth it, So I agree with you, man. The integrity of the game, there's no way I can go out there and trick my game off just to get paid on the side when I'm already reaping the benefits in a lot of ways of being a national football player. So I'll take it. I'll take my national football status, and I can't do that cheating and betting on the side, tricking my game off. No way.
You living the dream, and you tarnishing your name at the same time. All these young cats out here making plays on the gridiron, man. Who are some of your top wide receivers you enjoy watching?
Oh, well, I think outside of the Jamar Chase and the Jefferson in Minnesota, obvious names. I think for me, Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle is up and coming and exciting, man. I think his route running for me, a route runner is always going to be impressive for me, and I think his route running in itself has been amazing. I think he's coming along and has even more of a ceiling to grow as he gets older and understands the game and it slows down for him. I also love Puka. I love Puka Nacua out in LA. I think, with his size and his ability and strength and speed, he's not only going to get better, especially with the situation of him being in that McVay offense. I think it's going to do nothing but give him opportunity after opportunity. They throw the ball almost 65, 70% of the game, so he's going to be due for a lot of targets. And I think maybe one of my young guys that I see the world in, and I think he's going to be amazing in this league is Mbeka Emuka. I think that's how you say it, the young boy from Tampa.
Mbuka,
Yeah, I think he is going to be a dog, man. He has a lot of understanding of the route concept when it comes to defenses at a very young age. He doesn't just go out there and run routes, and I think a lot of times you get that with young guys coming in the league. You give them a comeback on paper, and that's exactly what it looks like on the field. But this kid, he understands, spacing. He understands timing. And I think, obviously, growing up under Mike and Godwin out there in Tampa is going to do nothing but teach him more and give him ability to grow. So those would probably be my three guys outside of those top two dogs that I enjoy watching.
What allows a young rookie to come in and have success that separates them from rookies that take time to figure it out, that just run the basic route tree, like you said?
I think a lot of young guys that come into the league just want to do everything right. And that's why they go out there and make the paper look like the game on the field. But a lot of times, as you know, it's not going to be like it is on paper on the field. And you have to be willing to adjust. So a lot of those young guys that are going out and running those paper routes, for the young guy that's able to come in and understand, timing, spacing. If I have a slant, this time, if the ball's on the opposite hash, I may not need to get as wide as I would have to if the ball was on the near hash to me. Understanding those small type of things is going to help young guys. And I think it's hard, because the college game is so different from the league and in spacing wise when it comes to the field and the ability of guys to be able to close those bigger windows quicker in the league. I think a lot of them just don't understand it, and a lot of them come in and just trying to do what's right and running their route. But, for guys like Mbuka that's able to understand that this is the way you get the ball, of being able to adjust your splits, adjust your spacing in your route running as you're running down the field, being able to squeeze a DB and hold the red line, as they call it, on a go route, and understanding those things and not just getting pushed wide and pushed to the sidelines. Understanding those different type of things helps them with the speed of the game and allows them to get the ball and not just run the route that's assigned to them.
But look, man, I tell you what, the Titans need to get it together, man. It ain't gonna happen this year. I'm gonna rock with the Titans. I'm about to go to the rest of the home games the rest of the year. I'm gonna commit to that. You know what I mean? Show some support. But I have a question. Cam says once he's able to get comfortable and do him, it's over, right? And I believe it.
Right.
What type of offense do you think will best suit Cam? I'm actually going to answer what I think first. I think he's wearing that number 1. They might as well bring the run and shoot back. You know what I'm saying? Like, spread it out, let him get quick passes out, and move the ball methodically downfield. Take your big plays when you need them. What you got?
I've been asking for that, all season, boy. I think, this kid, he is an up-tempo guy. He's energetic. He wants to make big plays. He wants to get he's an up-tempo sense of urgency's high type of guy, right? Sending him out in a methodical, slow-paced offense where you're asking him to read defenses, make adjustments, and those type of things won't fit his game right now. Giving him the ability to spread this offense out, 3-step game, get the ball out of his game, a ball quick, and I'll have those opportunities to take shots down the field when they're there. Is I think gonna be suitable, as you stated, the run and shoot offense, man. This is a kid where you just don't go out there and ask him to be a Peyton Manning and look over a defense and make adjustments to put them in the right situation to be successful. I don't see that being Cam's game. I see him being the up-tempo type of guy that likes to push pressure on the defense, which will also allow, as up-tempo offenses allow vanilla-style defenses. You have to get in the coverage that's going to be shown. You can't do a lot of disguising. You have to show me immediately what you're going to run against me, which allows me to make a lot better pre-snap reads, and I just don't think he's having the opportunity to do so. If they're able to do that, I think his operation will be a lot better. But outside of his operation, when I look at this film, he has to get back to the fundamentals of being a quarterback, which is a solid base and a solid up body. A lot of times I'm seeing him in these God modes, these hero modes, want to make big plays. His footwork is terrible and his body posture is leaning a lot of times. And as until you perfect the fundamentals of your craft, you can't go out there and make the spectacular throws and those type of things.
That being said, what type of coach do you think is needed for this Titans team?
With you, I greatly think that they are in need of a physical for first and foremost. He has to be a physical-minded coach. I don't care whether he's an offensive coach or a defensive coach. He has to be a physical coach. This team and what they've been going through, if this team is not built on its offensive line and defensive line, then it's going to be a long rebuild. This is where they put their trust, and understanding that is going to be the foundation of this team moving forward for the next at least 3 to 5 years, especially with Jeffrey Simmons being there, Christian Berry on the offensive side, and those young guards, and hoping that these tackles turn around for them, and make some good out of these draft picks and late them. But other than that, I don't care whether it's an offensive, defensive coach. My main thing is just making sure that the next coach comes in with a real plan. I don't feel like,
Bingo.
Yeah, I don't feel like Callahan came in with the understanding of where he wanted to direct his team, whether they were going to be an offensive team or a defensive team, whether they were going to be a run first, run stopper, whether they were going to put their hats in, quarterback sacks on the defense, or whether they were going to put their hats in the air on, with Cam coming in. I don't think they were ever had a true identity of what they wanted to be as a team. And for me, it's important, whether whoever they bring in has to have a real understanding of what identity he wants to bring to this team, what their philosophy would be on both sides of the ball with a clear understanding. If you're bringing in a defensive coach, don't bring in a defensive coach coach that doesn't understand the offensive side of the ball. That's not going to help Cam, and understanding that, assistant coaches are very, very important, as you know, Bull, especially when you're looking at this situation with the offensive coordinator now not being the play caller. You bring in a guy, you give him a title, and now he's no longer holding the title without the job responsibility. It's not going to help.
Does that mean that they don't trust him? Do they not trust him to make the play call? That's backwards. Why would you make him the OC and then jump him for somebody else?
Yeah, and that was my whole thing, boy, because at the end of the day, if I, as a head coach, am coming to my coordinators and telling them they're not doing the job, the last thing I'm going to let you do is keep your title and stay around. Like, you got to go.
They waste Miss Amy's money. They waste Miss Amy's money.
Hey, they gonna get paid anyway, right? Don't the coaches get their check anyway, regardless of if they get logo? Yeah. So my whole thing is like he kept his homie around, and now your homie not here. I mean, now you not here, but your homie's still here. Like, right. So I think and that hurts you. You know what I'm saying? You let him go. You released him of his duties. Let him go. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of that matters. It just calls for the understanding that coach is really just feeling his way through things. And no more experiments. We want a guy with understanding, even if you weren't successful before. I don't mind head coaches that's been fired before, because a lot of those guys learn a lot in that situation. But when you're bringing in a coordinator or any other guy that has never been a head coach before with no understanding of what they want to do, you're jeopardizing your future. Yeah,
I don't want nobody else with somebody else's last name that ain't really put their stamp on anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want nobody that sat around, I watched him do it. But if you've never actually called the plays, or been in that position of leading the team, or having to stand in front of your men and tell them an assignment and them having to believe you, no, that ain't for us.
Facts. I'm with you.
All right, thanks, Nate. I appreciate you for coming through. Bullseye View. Hey, why don't you plug your book one more time and where everybody can find it?
Man, Football Was My Father. You can find it on Amazon, or you can go to my website, NateWashington85.com, and it'll direct you exactly where you need to go, man. I surely appreciate that, boy. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Podcasting for the masses, and I'm coming correct.